Hello, everyone. And today we're going to continue reading Lee Strobel's book, The Case for Miracles. And today we're going to read Chapter 4, The Astonishing Miracle of Creation. When William Lane Craig was a teenager, he doubted that Jesus' mother Mary could have been a virgin. Why? Because a Y chromosome would have had to be created out of nothing in Mary's ovum, since she didn't possess the genetic material to produce a male child. But then, he said, it occurred to me that if I really do believe in a God who created the universe, then for him to create a Y chromosome would be no problem. In short, if God created the laws of nature when he spoke the universe into being, then it would be easy for him to occasionally intervene in order to do miracles of all sorts, from the truly astounding, like raising someone from the dead, to the more subtle, like supernaturally encouraging someone who is struggling. Without a doubt, the granddaddy of all miracles is the creation of the universe from nothing. If Genesis 1:1 is correct when it says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth," then it's not so hard to believe that God can do other miracles too. If God can command an entire universe and even time itself to leap into existence, then walking on water would be like a stroll in the park, and a resurrection would be as simple as a snap of the fingers. Of course, people try to come up with all other explanations for the origin and fine-tuning of the universe. Maybe the universe didn't have a cause. Perhaps there was never an absolute beginning for everything. Or there could even be a multitude of universes, each one with randomly selected laws in physics, and ours just happened to be habitable. Can we ever know for sure whether the universe is a cosmic accident or a miracle? Or should we shrug our shoulders and say that we don't know where everything came from? To find answers to this question like these, I went to talk to a physicist named Michael Strauss. Dr. Strauss first became interested in science as a kid. He lived in Huntsville, Alabama, where NASA built the first stage of the mighty Saturn V rocket that later took astronauts to the moon. There's still enthusiasm in his voice when he says, "They'd light those boosters to test them and wow, the whole town would shake." Now, Dr. Strauss is a professor of physics at the University of Oklahoma, and he researches at the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, smashing protons together in order to understand, among other things, fundamental particles called top quarks. In fact, he was on the team whose discoveries helped find the famous Higgs boson, known as the God particle, in 2012, which was named that because it was so essential and difficult to find, not because of any godlike characteristics. Strauss's studies of the world's tiniest particles have become more and more relevant to our understanding of the beginnings and workings of our world and our vast universe. That's because the collider he works with can simulate what the universe may have been like a trillionth of a second after it first began. So I wanted his scientific opinion about whether anything he studied points to God as the creator of quarks, Higgs bosons, and other building blocks of nature. Is there any evidence for the miracle of creation? Seeing God in everyday nature. When I go to the lab, I don't expect to see the supernatural, Dr. Strauss told me. If miracles happened all the time, we wouldn't be able to study the usual way nature works. But just because something works a certain way most of the time with the laws of nature, doesn't mean there can't be exceptions. But even without miracles, the science of the usual way nature works can point to God, he explained. The Bible says it's through the natural processes of nature that we most commonly see evidence for God, not just through his miracles. Romans 1:20 tells us that God's invisible qualities are clearly seen. Through what? Through what he has made. And Psalm 19:1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands." So frankly, we don't necessarily need miracles to find evidence for God. It's right there, embedded in the natural processes that he has created and that we as scientists are studying. It was a good reminder that when protons collide and explode into even tinier particles, scientists are getting a glimpse into the incredible complexity and wonder of God's creativity. just as we detect his supernatural qualities when we watch an awesome thunderstorm or look at the galaxy of stars winking in the night sky. The Big Bang. Going back to the ancient Greeks, most scientists believed the universe has always existed, that it didn't have a beginning. When Albert Einstein came up with his general theory of relativity in 1915 and applied it to the universe as a whole, he was shocked. The theory showed that the universe should either be growing or collapsing. Other scientists using Einstein's theories concluded the universe is indeed expanding. In other words, in the past, the universe was smaller than it is now. Imagine that somehow you could watch a video of the universe expanding, getting bigger and bigger. Mind-boggling, isn't it? Now imagine that you could play the video backward. You'd see the universe getting smaller and smaller. If you could go back far enough, you would see it shrink down to its very beginnings. That's what was so shocking to Albert Einstein and other scientists. They didn't think that the universe had a beginning. Now they were seeing evidence that it did. That beginning, according to scientists, was what we call the Big Bang. Christians and the Big Bang Theory. What do Christians think about the Big Bang Theory? The science one, not the TV show. Well, that depends on who you ask. Some Christians believe that the Big Bang Theory contradicts the Bible. Genesis 1 talks about God creating the world in 6 days, with human beings being created on the 6th day. The Big Bang Theory implies that the universe came into its current form over a much longer period of time. Humans, according to this theory, came on the scene much later. Another argument that some Christians make is that the Earth cannot possibly be billions of years old, as the Big Bang Theory suggests. They believe that the Earth is about 6,000 years old, and that it was created around 4000 BC. These Christians, often called young Earth creationists, get that date by adding up the ages of people in the genealogy lists in the Bible and counting backward to Adam. Christians who reject the Big Bang Theory might say that when it's the Bible versus science, the Bible is right. Other Christians say that the Bible and what we learn from the natural world simply won't be in conflict because both the Bible and the world come from God. They say that if what science learns from the natural world seems to disagree with what we learn from the Bible, it's because either 1, we haven't understood the science correctly, or 2, we haven't understood the Bible correctly. Because there is so much good scientific evidence for the Big Bang Theory, they say, maybe the problem isn't with the Big Bang, but with how we understand Genesis. They point out that at one time, Galileo's statement that the Earth revolves around the sun was considered anti-biblical, but now Christians accept that scientific discovery. Many Christians believe that the 6 days of creation described in Genesis 1 are not supposed to be understood as 24-hour days. They point out that the Bible never talks about how old the Earth is, and that there could be gaps in the lists of ages that young Earth creationists use to calculate the date of creation. Other Christians would argue that the point of Genesis 1 and 2 is not to tell us how the world was created, but who created it. A lot of people would probably be surprised to learn that one of the scientists who first suggested the Big Bang Theory was a Catholic priest. His name was Georges Lemaitre. You might expect that Monsignor Lemaitre would have faced opposition from the Catholic Church, as had Galileo and other scientists before him. But in fact, Pope Pius XII affirmed the Big Bang Theory. He saw it as a scientific confirmation of a creator God. He said, "It would seem that present-day science, with one sweep back across the centuries, has succeeded in bearing witness to the august instant of 'Let there be light,' when along with matter there burst forth from nothing a sea of light and radiation, and the elements split and churned and formed into millions of galaxies. Science has confirmed. The world came forth from the hands of the Creator. Hence, creation took place. We say, therefore, there is a Creator, therefore God exists." More recently, Pope Francis also stated that there is no conflict between the Christian Church and the theory. He said, "The Big Bang, which is today posited at The origin of the world does not contradict the divine act of creation. Rather, it requires it. This isn't just a Catholic thing, though. Many Protestant churches have also made statements affirming that there is no conflict between Christianity and the Big Bang Theory, and many individual Christians in a wide variety of churches feel the same way. Scientists and the Big Bang Theory. So how do scientists view the Big Bang Theory? Interestingly, when the theory was first proposed in the 1920s, some scientists rejected it. Why? Because if the Big Bang really happened, that meant that the universe hadn't always existed. It meant that the universe had a beginning. That went against everything that scientists had previously believed. In fact, the name Big Bang was originally used by a scientist making fun of the theory. That scientist, Fred Hoyle, thought the idea that the universe had a beginning was ridiculous, and he, like many other scientists at the time, thought the description of the Big Bang, something created out of nothing, was far too similar to what religious people believed. Over the years, though, the evidence for the Big Bang had been growing. Here are 3 discoveries Dr. Strauss says confirms the Big Bang theory. 1929. Astronomer Edwin Hubble discovered the so-called redshift in light coming from distant galaxies, which is the result of galaxies literally flying apart from each other at enormous speeds. This shows our universe is rapidly expanding. 1964. Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson measured the cosmic background microwave radiation, which showed that the leftover heat from the Big Bang was minus 450 degrees Fahrenheit. This is exactly what we would expect if the Big Bang occurred. 1995. The origin of light elements was discovered. Science shows that heavier elements that formed later in stars were thrown into space by supernova, but lighter elements such as helium and hydrogen would have needed to form in a much hotter environment, such as the Big Bang. When we measure the amount of these 2 elements in the universe, we find they are precisely what the theory predicted, to within 1 part in 10,000. In addition, recently scientists have found these further evidences that support the Big Bang theory. 1995. Astrophysicist Arthur Davidson announced the discovery of helium in interplanetary space. The amount of this element in the universe is precisely what the theory predicted, to within 1 part in 10,000. 2017. The Nobel Prize for Physics was awarded to 3 scientists involved in the discovery of gravitational waves. Gravitational waves are ripples in time and space. They are further evidence of the rapid expansion of the universe at the Big Bang. As more and more discoveries are made, the evidence for the Big Bang is getting stronger. I asked Dr. Strauss for his opinion as a nuclear physicist and a Christian. Given the evidence, in my opinion, not believing in the Big Bang like believing the Earth is flat, he said, to me, the data are that strong. The Big Bang is the origin of everything we know: space, time, matter, and energy. Another Christian scientist named William Lane Craig has popularized the so-called Kalam argument, which says, whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. He points to God as the one who put it into motion, and the Big Bang is evidence of a start to creation. What do you think of the Kalam argument? I asked. It's extremely strong, Dr. Strauss answered. Think about it. Is there anything that comes into existence without a cause behind it? And we know from the evidence that the universe did come into existence. If those 2 things are true, then the conclusion inevitably follows: the universe has a cause. Well, that's the end of the chapter. You know, a lot of people will say that science and Christianity are 2 separate things, but it's nice when you get to see that the 2 of them can go together, that they both can explain each other. And as we know, the Bible was written a long time ago, well before we had this type of science to explain things. And it's so nice when things from the Bible, way before scientific discoveries, can be explained by science. I also wanted to give you the spelling of the name of the Catholic priest who was the first one to suggest the Big Bang Theory, and his name never really gets any recognition. It was pronounced Jacques Lumet, but it's spelled Georgeslemaitre, in case you wanted to look him up. There are quite a few videos about his discovery and some explanations. I hope that you can see that science and Christianity don't have to be at opposite ends of the spectrum, that they both can help explain each other. And I hope that you can understand that whether you believe in God or not, He's there, and He exists, and He created you. I pray that you all have a great week, and I will see you next time as we read the next chapter of Lee Strobel's book, The Case for Miracles. Please let me know if you see any miracles, and if you'd like to share them. God bless, and I will see you next time.